Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Judge Martini. How are you this evening?
Good, Terry. How are you? Good evening.
I'm good. I'm good. As we were talking about before we came on, the situation with my teeth this weekend, and that was something else. So I'm glad that
Never
I
a
got.
fun, never a
Huh?
fun time. Never a fun time for dental work.
Whew, my goodness. But glad I got that done and over with. And I wanted to say that I appreciate you saying, you were willing to cancel and reschedule for because of this weekend. So I want to make sure that I tell you I appreciate that.
No problem. Glad everything worked out.
Good, good. So Nick, there is so many things. First and foremost, I want ladies and gentlemen, this is Judge Nick Martini. Nick, just tell a little bit about who you are, where's your office located, and just a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody who's watching. I'm District Judge Nick Martini. My office is physically located right in the heart of the West End on South Main Street and Wabash. My office is located in what was the old bank building. Everybody probably knew that, the West End Bank building. And there's several other things in the building now, too. A security company is in there. The Allegheny County Democratic Committee is located in there, as well as Spotlight Costumes and the Library Association. So the building's fully used. I'm on the basement level. Um, my office services all landlord tenant matters, civil matters, non-traffic incidents regarding truancies, private complaints, and building code violations that occur within wards 20 and 28, which is pretty much the entire city of Pittsburgh in the West End region. So those are all the different kinds of cases that I have in my office, as well as handling matters at Pittsburgh Municipal Court, which are all traffic offenses that happen in the city of Pittsburgh, as well as criminal matters,
Mhm.
non-traffic issues such as anything to do with Rivers Casino incidents, fights, and then we also do a central arraignment court is also located at Pittsburgh Municipal Court as well. So I work there on a rotating basis, along with the 11 other City of Pittsburgh judges.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And so I want to jump in and talk about these fines and fees, the workshop that you were working on it the last time you were on the show. Where are you at now? Where are we at now with the fines and fees, and what does that even mean?
Okay, great. So yeah, I remember when I was on the last community service, which was probably last year, I think middle of
Mhm.
last year, give or take. So at that time, so just to kind of talk about the whole program before we talk about what my involvement in it was, but so in late 2022, Governor Wolf signed a bill into law that the state House and Senate passed unanimously. So, which is hard to believe for anything. So, the entire state House and Senate, there were zero negative votes to make this bill become law. And Governor Wolf was the governor at the time, and he signed Act 163 of 2022 into law. And this law took effect March of 2023,
Okay.
which gave judges the flexibility and allowability to forgive any old traffic and or non-traffic fines.
Mm.
So judges were never able to do that based on before on someone's income. All you could do was put somebody on a manageable payment plan for
Mhm,
them.
mhm.
But aside from giving community service in a non-traffic offense, traffic, we all we could do for traffics was put somebody on a payment plan. Once the case was adjudicated, regardless of someone's current financial state, all we could do was put you on a payment plan. But the enactment of Act 163 of 2022 now allows a judge to take into consideration someone's ability to pay now, and traffics are subject now to community service potentially, or vacate if we determine a defendant is not able to pay at this given time. So
Okay.
it gave judges a lot of flexibility in dealing with these old adjudicated cases for traffic and non-traffics. So during last year, I think the last time that I was on the Civic series,
Mhm.
myself and Judge King, who's from Carrick, he's a city district judge, and he's also the president of our county association. He and I were in talks at that time with court administration on how we can try to streamline some of this,
Mhm.
not only in our district courts, but at Pittsburgh Municipal Court, which, as I said, encompasses the entire city of Pittsburgh. So, and that's where we're housing traffics and some non-traffics. So, through some collaboration with us working with court administration,
Hmm.
late last year, like late November, early December, we were able to work with the computer department for the court administration, and they rolled out a link, which is from the Fifth Judicial website, that
Hmm.
allows easy access for anybody who thinks, whether you know or not, if you have outstanding old traffic cases or non-traffic fines from Pittsburgh Municipal Court. This online portal will allow you to search that, number one, but even if you want to just see if you have anything, you can go in there through a link and you will email a staff member at municipal court and they can look up all of your information and then schedule you to come in and talk to a judge about, your ability to either do community service for these or just maybe see if it can be waived based on your current financial status.
Wow, that's really huge because it's making me think of so many people that has been affected by incarceration,
Mhm.
and they have lost their license
Sure.
due to this these fines and fees. And so this is something that I'm hoping that our audience is listening and they grasp what you were saying. And if not, make sure that they tell somebody, because that's big, Nick. Because um, I know dozens of people that have with colorful backgrounds that have
Mhm.
lost their license. And so this is really, really huge. And it is for traffic and what else?
Non-traffic offenses. So those could be anything. If they would be housed at municipal court, it could have been like a disorderly conduct violation from years ago, a harassment, public drunkenness, building code fines. Some of those years ago were done at municipal court, so you could have something like that still hanging out.
Wow.
I mean, a couple, and as Terry mentioned about people who have colorful backgrounds and
Hmm.
potential licenses that were lost during some of this. I can speak to a few things that I did over the past couple of months. I helped a gentleman. We had a traffic. He had about 10 or 11 actually
Mm.
old adjudicated traffic cases, which obviously hindered him at this point from getting his license reinstated. And he was also in federal custody for 6 or 7 years. And
Hmm.
he came in and talked to me about, we had a payment determination hearing on this. And I mean, at the outcome of it, and he had a job waiting at Amazon, but obviously he needed a driver's license to get this. He was going to be back on his feet. So, I mean, I was able to, based on his financial situation, vacate all of these old fines for him. And he got that job at Amazon and he was in tears in front of me in court because of some of it.
Wow.
And this is the impact that we
Hmm.
can make given individuals, circumstances if we determine that to be the case. So this law is really a game changer in regards to a lot of these things that we before couldn't really do anything with.
Right. So it changed from the middle of last year to now, Nick. When
Um,
actually?
March of 2023,
Okay.
this became law, and
Okay.
judges were able to do this. But it took quite a bit of time in collaboration to try to figure out how we could um, most easily get this link in this, on the website. So there was a lot of moving parts with that. And then, and obviously getting the computer team to figure this out, to just try to make it as user friendly as, we could. And I mean, myself and Judge King were kind of the two that worked with court administration to kind of make this a reality. And I know Terry is going to share that link, I
Yes.
guess, on here. So if anybody wants to click that, you'll certainly see what I'm talking about. And, it gives you the options you can pre-fill out some paperwork too, which will make it quicker for you. So you
Hmm.
wouldn't have to do it, if you go to court, that can already be done, ahead of time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to upload the link so you can register. And once you register, the staff will walk you through what you need to know of how to get these fines and fees off of you with traffic and some non-traffic fines and fees. You may be able to get these hindrance waived. So please, ladies and gentlemen, when I put in the chat, please take full advantage of this, because this is huge. This is really, really huge. Um, so Nick, okay, so I wanted to bring that up because that's how we left last year. So I
Sure.
wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. Now I want to go into your landlord tenant workshop, and so I have so many questions. I have and so many Yeah, I have so many questions. I have and fears. I really do have fears. One of my fears, Nick, is that I just talked to a young lady. Um, what we do is we get just for example, mold was growing in her home, and she stopped paying the rent. She had the money to pay the rent, but she stopped paying the rent. She did not put in an escrow. And so what was the path that she should have taken? And it's maybe not too late, but what is that? What path should a tenant take if in that position? And what is escrow?
Okay, right. So, any generally speaking, so anytime you're having habitability issues with your apartment, it's really paramount, and a lot of this will be discussed at the landlord tenant workshop that I'm hosting in April, which we'll get into certainly in a minute about all those details. But so generally, like, if you're having issues with your apartment, whether it be mold, appliances that don't work, leak, water leaking from, into your apartment, bugs, I mean, rodent infestation, any of these kind of things. So obviously, it's first paramount that, document it with pictures, or anything to just prove, what's going on. But obviously, you have to notify your landlord too. You can't, because they don't live there, so they don't know. You have to tell them when things are wrong with your unit like this. But given these instances, so when you notify your landlord, hey, if you look at my wall here, here's pictures, there's mold. I have a refrigerator that doesn't work. My heat's, this is winter, so my heat's blowing, cold air. It's,
Mm-hmm.
so you got to notify your landlord of these things. And then you have to give them appropriate time to modify the situation. Some things are a quick fix, some might take a little longer, but you have to give
Right.
them some time to do this stuff. But if you get to the point where you as a tenant, you feel that I'm not paying rent because my furnace hasn't been fixed, it's been 3 weeks, my fridge doesn't work, I have mold, I have bugs, whatever the situation
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
by law, you're required, you can't just not pay rent. But what you can do is you tell your landlord, you basically say that, listen, I'm withholding my March rent because I told you February 6th I don't have a furnace that works, and it's now February it's March 1st, it still doesn't work. I'm withholding my rent payment. I opened an escrow account, which is basically it's like a savings account. It's a checking account. It's just a separate account from your general checking account or whatever you have. I
Mm-hmm.
opened this escrow account, and then I deposited March's rent into this escrow account at PNC Bank, and I will pay you that once my furnace is fixed.
So let me ask you this, Nick. Would it be best practice for the tenant to verbally say this, or email this, or text this? What is your suggestion um, for the tenant? What best practice?
I like I like something in writing, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's an email, a text, any kind of writing.
Mm-hmm.
That has always been best because it kind of, it cuts out any, when did you say it? Was it said?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have some dates typically, you could pull up, hey, this is when I mean, anything that is in some kind of writing, whether it's a text, it's an email. I mean, and I tell people generally too, like, if you typically communicate with your landlord via text, that's fine, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the communication that you both have. If your correspondence is usually email, that's fine too. A lot of some bigger landlords now, they have kind of they have like a online portal, and that is
Mm-hmm.
kind of how you are supposed to, to talk about any issue. So if you're doing that, that's fine, but whatever like the preferred communication method is, that's best.
Good, good. Thank you.
Document what's going on.
Yeah, yes, document. And I'm really, really glad you said that. And ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not asking the questions that you would like answers for, please put it in the chat. We will be answering questions, so please put your questions in the chat. So now, Nick, let me ask you about on the landlord's side. What if what what steps can a landlord take that this may be their first property, right? And so, what steps can a landlord take that a tenant is just not is not moving, is not keeping the house outside up to date or inside up to date? What steps does a landlord take, and what law is behind that landlord?
Okay, they're very good questions, and I mean Terry's talking a lot about the presentation that I do in April at the landlord tenant workshop. But so the Landlord Tenant Act in Pennsylvania has been in law since the 1950s, and it's only there's been some obviously updates to it over the years, but the general framework of the Landlord Tenant Act has been in place since I think 1951, I believe is the exact
Mhm,
year. So in the Landlord Tenant Act, it spells out landlords' rights and tenants' rights. So to get to Terry's question about what are like legal remedies can a landlord take depending on the situation. So the thing that we always look at first, and I do anyway, in landlord tenant cases is I want to see the lease because
mhm,
that's the framework, if you will, for the agreement between the landlord and the tenant. So in that lease will be spelled out different things. So, there will be basically responsibilities of the tenant in the lease. You're to keep the property, clean. You're to keep it, sanitary. You're not to have things outside. But also in terms of like, and also it'll say the responsibility is who's to pay what bills,
mhm,
who owns the appliances. Usually landlords will provide like a refrigerator, a stove, things of that nature, but
mhm,
sometimes they don't. So that would be in the lease as to who actually owns these items and is responsible for their maintenance too. But then another important thing too in the lease, so it's regarding what is called a notice to quit, which
mhm,
by law a landlord must provide to a tenant if they're going to take them to court for whatever reason, for lease violations. You're only supposed to be. I'm renting the apartment only to one person, and I find out
mm,
five people living there. So,
mm,
but regardless of that, whether it's simply you're not paying rent, whatever the thing is, but the notice to quit, it will every lease must have a notice to quit. Now, it can say tenant waives a right to a notice to quit, meaning there's so if a landlord wants to take a tenant to court for any issue, they can just do it without posting a notice to quit. But some leases have a notice to quit in it, meaning landlord must give tenant 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, however long the lease says, before they can file a court proceeding for any violations, whether it be non-payment of rent, lease violations. A landlord must adhere to the notice to quit depending on what the lease says. So when I start a landlord tenant case, in the complaint form, there's two boxes. One will say notice to quit is required, notice to quit is not required. So
mhm.
depending on what box is checked, I know what to look for in a lease. And if your lease says no notice to quit, then the landlord did not have to give a notice. But then if it says notice to quit is required, how many days was it? If it's 10 days, I want to see the notice to quit and the date of it. And then as long as the landlord tenant complaint is filed after 10 days, that's part's all legal.
So let me ask you this, and thank you so much for that, because I have a couple of friends and associates who they have first time property owners, and they're renting it out. Um, Let me ask you this: does a landlord have the right that if someone has been formerly incarcerated, do they have the right to not to deny housing to a individual?
There, uh, so basically to answer that, I would say no, in the sense that there has to be another reason that they would want to deny this individual. I mean, typically, um, it depends how in depth landlords are going
Hmm.
to go with like a background check. So that's
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
varies with everybody. So, but I would say no, that you probably, if you deny somebody just running an apartment based on their former, like, incarceration status. I mean,
Hmm.
this person could the person being denied, if the landlord tells you that's why they're denying you, I mean,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
potentially could file something with the equal opportunity kind of. And there's different, we talk about this in the presentation, and there's a list of the different agencies that would handle something like that regarding a complaint. So
Good, good.
kind of the tail end of the presentation that I give in April. That those, I don't know them off the top of my head, but they're listed in
Yeah,
the presentation.
good, good. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because, ladies and gentlemen, the workshop is April the 10th. It is April the 10th. And you have hybrid. So is it
Mhm.
in person, or is it or do you have a choice?
Yeah, so you basically have a choice with this. So I've done a few of these workshops now since I've been in office. I've done numerous landlord tenant ones. I've also did a emergency protection from abuse workshop,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
well as a expungement of records workshop as well in that process. So, but so this is the first one though. This upcoming one in April is the first one that we've had the option of a either in person. All the other ones have been strictly in person, but this time we're going to do a in-person option if you want to come. It's going to be hosted at the Carnegie Library West End branch, which is located
Hmm.
at 47 Wabash Street. It's 6:30 p.m. April 10th. So you have the in-person option, or they're also going to stream it. I don't know if it's, so if you register using the QR code for the virtual, they are going to send you whatever link, if it's Zoom or if it's, Microsoft Teams, I don't know, but whatever medium they're going to use to stream this, you will be given that if you select the virtual option. So we're hoping more people will attend, if they have the virtual option, because we've kind of, the few that I have already hosted in person, our average attendance has been 15 to 20, which hasn't been bad, but
Right.
we're hoping maybe with an online option, more people will, choose to tune in, from home.
Okay, good, great. And I want to let me see, we have a couple questions. Good to see you. Let me see. When is the you answered the one. It is hybrid and in person, so that's
Yes.
great. Um, so keep them coming. I will put in the chat the registration link, and I will also put the date and time. Please take advantage of it. Um, Nick, I want to ask you about the car, because you did a workshop on license plates,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I did not know anything about it. What you I didn't know nothing about the information that I learned. My friend Sam Gibson was like, "Well, that's that's been law. I never knew that." And so I
Yeah.
want people to know that if your numbers on your license plate are coming off, that your office will help and assist with that, because that is against the law. We can
Yeah.
get a ticket for that.
Yeah. So yeah, so a few years ago, there was a bad batch of Pennsylvania license plates that they were producing for a number of years. A lot of them, I think, you see begin with a J, and actually, I have a J license plate myself, and there's a little piece that is peeling off. I need to probably do this at some point myself, but mine's all readable though. But there's a little corners kind of peeling. But some people's are terrible. I mean, you
Right,
can't read
right.
any of it. So and this becomes an issue. I mean, because police can pull you over because they cannot read your license plate. So I mean, and I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, but as I heard more about it and I was paying attention myself as I was driving around, I just found it so many times. I'm behind a car and I'm like, I can't read their license plate. And I'm like, I said, I want to try to help people. A lot of people were not aware of this. So we were able to have I coordinated with the city police as well as Councilwoman Smith. So we did a workshop at the library, actually, it's the West End
Mhm.
Library, and we had over 80 people come in. The police officers filled out the forms for them. We had to mail it to PennDOT,
Wow.
and on average, about 4 to 5 weeks, everybody that mailed their form in um, got a new license plate. It's free of charge from the state. They update your registration, everything, so your registration would now reflect your new license plate number. I mean, and they mail it right to you. It's all, aside from you having to just send in that form that was filled out there. That's about it. So I mean, it's great, and I think that I'm going to try to do another one of these probably the summertime. We did that one I think in July, and like I said, we got about 80 people that came from all over the place. It wasn't just in the West End. A lot of residents did, but people came from everywhere. So, and it was
Wow.
just great. So it's
I learned something. I learned something that day, and I do believe that it was Councilwoman Smith who told me
mm,
that how what the workshop was about, and I was like, wait, so some of the license numbers, I was really thankful for that information, because honestly, I did not know.
yeah,
I
it's
did not know.
definitely. I mean, it's something that you could get pulled over for. So I mean, a lot of people don't even realize it. So take a look at the back of your car, and if your plates. Also, you can download this form yourself if you want online and go to any police station and a police officer just has to sign it saying that your plate's not readable, and then you can just mail it in. So you can do it. You don't have to if you don't have to go to city police. If you live in a suburb, you can go to your local police department. Any police officer can sign it.
Wow. So we learned a lot today. What else do I need to put in the chat? It was something else I was supposed to put in the chat. I put in the link, ladies and gentlemen, of where to get registered for the upcoming landlord tenant workshop. Again, if there's questions that we did not good topics or questions that we did not go over, please make sure to mark your calendars and register for April the 10th, the landlord tenant workshop. Is you will be able to do virtual and or in person. And so tell us a little bit before we wrap it up, Nick. What else are you working on? What else is coming up? When are you coming back on the show to let us know what to expect?
Okay, great. So yeah, so just to real quickly talk about the landlord tenant workshop though. So basically is just a quick highlight of it. So what we'll do basically is it's about a 45 to 50 minute presentation, which is interactive though, and we allow time at the end and during to answer questions and answers as they come up from people. So, but the nuts and bolts of it basically is we run through the entirety of the Landlord Tenant Act and the rights of the landlord, the rights of the tenant, talking about leases. We talk about escrow. We talk about, the implied law of habitability, that every tenant has the right to a habitable unit, and then some remedies to that. We talk about, like I said, the lease. But also we really talk about too, what happens when you go to court and best
Mm-hmm,
practices
mm-hmm.
on how to prepare, yourself the best way, things you should bring, things of that nature. So we try to make it as easy as possible and try to make people as most at ease as you can be, as you're going through this. But also, I work a great deal with the Department of Human Services and Action Housing too when we're in court to try to see if potential funding is available for people that are struggling and are having hardship. So, we
Mm-hmm.
talk about some of that as well. So, but obviously it's important just so people are aware of these things, but we try to just the presentation's good, and there are usually a lot of good questions that come during and after it that people have about different circumstances and just law questions about it. And we talk about the appeal periods and things of that nature too. So it's very interactive and informative. So certainly if you want to know more about it, please feel free to register if you want to come online or in person. We're happy to have you either way. But as Terri said, so in addition to some things that are upcoming, so I'm probably likely going to do another license plate replacement event.
Mm-hmm.
I may try to obviously I have to bring in obviously the city police to be there to sign the forms for everybody. But I think I might try to expedite it a little bit if we can maybe coordinate something with Representatives Deasy and or Abney, who both have
Mm-hmm.
parts of my district now, because
Mm-hmm.
they can probably streamline this a little quicker for people because they have PennDOT connections, so they can get these forms in quicker, and
Yeah.
maybe we can get plates within like 2 weeks. So I think I might work on something like that, probably this summer. And then I probably will do some kind of fall workshop too. I don't have that scheduled yet with Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts, but I don't know if it's going to be another landlord tenant one. We may just see how this attendance is and go from there.
Yeah.
Or they do about, like I said, I've done 3 different ones with them, and they probably have about a dozen different ones.
Okay.
So I might, take a look at that and see what they're interested in co-hosting with me. But I'm always happy to come on the community civic series, and talk about things that we have going on. There is a lot of different things going on, with the courts, but I think the us being able to get the Act 163 of
Yeah.
2022 up and moving finally on the website is definitely important. If you need this, please, tell anybody. There's a search engine on there too that you can look up, because that's the thing too. Like, so the link to set up for a hearing is only good for Pittsburgh Municipal Court. So if you have any outstanding fines and fees in different district courts, you have to contact that court directly. And I have an open, you can contact my office at any time. If you find something that you have in my district office in the West End, you need to come in and discuss that with me. And then we can, I just did 3 of these today. I had 3 payment determinations for people that had old non-traffic cases. So, I probably do a couple a week. So
What's your address, Nick?
Yeah, my office address is 22 Wabash Street, lower level, suite 101. So I'm on the basement level, and that's Pittsburgh 15220.
Yeah. Right up the street from Rep Beezy's office, Wabash Street. And or when is your next expungement workshop coming up?
Yeah, so we did one of those. I believe it was the first week of November. We did it at the Sheridan Senior or Healthy and Active Living Center. So that is also, I don't have a date for another one, but that is also something that I want to probably do again this year. We had a few people come to that, so and I think they qualified for expungement. So the public defenders staff filled all that out for them, and we're submitting all of that. Um, I'm hoping. I think we did it a weeknight, I think like 5 to 7. So I think we're going to change that a little bit to try to make it a little more conducive for people. It, I don't know if we may do like a weekend, maybe like a 2 hour, like, a 10 to noon kind of thing, or do it just later in the evening, maybe a 6:30 to 8:30. So I think I have to work with the public defender's office to figure all that out, because they have to be there to help, anybody fill out the forms, and then they turn them in too. So got to work on doing that, but I think we're going to modify the time a little bit to try to, make it more easy, conducive and easier for people to attend.
Yeah, and please let me know. I think the last one we were out of the country, but
Yes, I believe you were.
yeah, but because we, as you know, we do the colorful background cohorts, and they're that's affected men, women, and families with incarceration, and so that's something that I know definitely they would love to have more information on that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. As soon as we get something definitely scheduled for that, I certainly will, relay all this information. And if we have enough time between these different things, we could probably even do another, community series to
Yeah,
highlight the dates. And I mean, I'm hoping, like I said, I'm gonna work on, I'm just trying to get this one done, and then just gonna move on to some other,
yeah.
things. But that was kind of the plan. But I'll certainly keep you in the loop on any of these things as we get dates and, things confirmed with them.
And we greatly appreciate that. And so, if what is there anything that you would like to say before we wrap up? And of course, anytime that your office is needs to get information out, please let us help of any way possible, because you are doing a lot for the community. Again, like for the license plate, I did not know. And I
Mhm.
probably would have been the one standing there arguing, like, this is not against the law. So I just didn't know. I'm glad that I do know now. So we talked about the upcoming April the 10th landlord tenant workshop. We talked about the article 163, helping with the fines and the fees what is it? Traffic and
Mhm.
non-traffic.
Traffic and non-traffics, yeah.
Yes, and we talked about the escrow. We talked about um, the license, and we talked about the expungements.
Mhm.
And so that's a lot. That is a lot. Please tell us whatever you want to say before we wrap up, Nick. You're more than welcome. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you come up with any questions when we are done, please write them down and be ready for April the 10th. And them questions will be answered. So Nick, wrap it up with us. What are you taking us out with?
I'm just say thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad to be able to host some of these different community events and these little workshops. I mean, Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts is a very gracious co-host with, allowing me to do this and present this information to the community. And I also always will thank the Carnegie Library. They are a fabulous host, and they love, having us, and they just provide great services, just period, for everybody. I mean, I'm always proud to display a lot of their handouts at my office. They're all in my waiting room, because they offer great programming all summer, all year, for for adults and kids alike. I mean, they're fabulous, and I am so happy to be able to. I'm happy they're in our district. We have two locations actually, but I
Mhm.
mean, I'm so happy that they're always so gracious to host us as well. But thank you, and I'm working diligently to try to help people through a lot of the old traffic and non-traffic offenses. So that's the thing. So please, if you need to, please register and try to take advantage of the, unanimously passed Act 163 of 2022, allowing for potential fine and fee forgiveness. But I mean, it's so vitally important for traffic offenses too, because as Terry mentioned, and and I even mentioned too, you potentially could get your license back. I mean, when you have unpaid traffic fines and
Mm,
fees, it's going to withhold you from getting a license. I mean, and a lot of people need to drive. It's vital, especially for a lot of different employment. So, I mean,
yes.
please, if you need to, don't be ashamed, don't be embarrassed. Just, I mean, you have a lot of compassionate and caring judges that will certainly try to help you, get through some of these old matters that, you might have forgot about. It was so long ago, but
Hmm. Hmm.
the stuff's it's still out there. So don't hide from
Yeah.
it. You're better off just, facing it head on, and to try to get it resolved, because we have a lot of tools now that people didn't up until March of
Right.
23. So you're talking not even a year. So it's 11 months old. So
Wow. Wow. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We want to say thank you to our district judge, Nick Martini. The door is always open when we call and say, hey, we need some information. Can you come on the show? Not once yet. His schedule always allows him. And so we want to make sure that we thank you for that, Nick. And we appreciate the way you balance your calendar and able to give us the information that we need in the community. And so, ladies and gentlemen, again, make sure you mark your calendar for April the 10th, 6:30 p.m. And it's at the Carnegie Library. Is that the one on in West End?
yeah, yep. West End branch, address 47 Wabash, right next to the park.
Great. 47. So you ladies and gentlemen, is right next to the park in West
Yep.
End. And it's also hybrid, but you must click on the link that is in the chat to register.
Yes.
Okay. And so, Nick, we want to thank you so much. Thank you for coming. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching, and stay tuned for what's coming up next.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Have a good night.